Your Excellency, Dame Pearlette Louisy, Governor General of St. Lucia, Professor E. Nigel Harris, Vice Chancellor Emeritus of the University of the West Indies and Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Dr. Charmaine Gardner, Chair of the OECS Nominating Committee, Dr. Adrienne Auger, ANSA Caribbean Awards Laureate, Arts and Letters, librarians and library representatives, other invited guests. Good morning and welcome to the UWI Open Campus St. Lucia site, where we are always happy to host practically any activity that is in the interest of education, public education, and national development, as you know. And I see some faces that attend almost all of our functions, our public lectures and so on. So this is not a formal public lecture, but this is an activity of a slightly different ilk, and one in which we have many reasons to be involved. Not the least of which is that Dr. Charmaine Gardner, who is the OECS nominating chair for the ANSA Caribbean Awards, is one of our honorary graduates. She is very, very intimately involved with the UWI. I think she sits on practically every major committee that the UE has. She either sits on it or has sat on it and probably will sit in the future. So she's very much a UE person. Dr. Adrienne Auger, who is also an honorary graduate of the UWI, and one of whom we are really proud as an ANSA laureate. He is featured in the book that you're going to be receiving this morning. And I think that, you probably need to read his piece first. It is highly entertaining and written in his own unconventional and inimitable style. So I found it very good reading. So I'm putting in a plug for our local laureate here. The UWI, of course, has very great interest in anything to do with libraries. The University of the West Indies, which is the leading regional tertiary institution, has itself a number of libraries. We have special libraries as well as general libraries on the campuses, and a very extensive online database, and some of you may be familiar with it. And we have our own open campus St. Lucia librarian here, Ms. St. Rose, who can attest to that. The database is really second to none. And I have been intimately involved with databases from universities, leading universities worldwide, and I must say that none of them put our own online databases in the shade. Of course, all of this comes at great cost to the university, but I shall not pontificate on cost-related issues, as I think some people are expecting me to do. I'm going to be very nice this morning. I'm not going to mention anything about funding the UE. I think that our gathering here this morning not only underlines the importance of libraries to our society, but it also celebrates the importance of those who have contributed to producing a piece of reading that makes an excellent coffee table adornment. And I'm putting in a plug for one for my own personal coffee table, Dr. Gardner. So I don't want to prolong the welcome. At this point, I want to invite Dr. Gardner, who is going to tell us more about the ANSA Awards, and I think she's best placed to do so, to make a few remarks. Dr. Gardner?
Just a bit. Thanks. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Simon, not only for enabling, facilitating, and allowing us to make this presentation here today. As she rightly says, UWI is very near and dear to my heart. Your Excellency, Governor General Dame Paulette Louisy, University of Guyana Chancellor of the University of Guyana, and Chancellor, Vice Chancellor Emeritus of UWI, librarians, librarian representatives, my colleague, as part of the Answer McCall Laureate Awards, Ms. Dr. Adrienne Auger, again, Dr. Simon, ladies and gentlemen, you've had your welcome, and some very, very solid and pertinent comments have been made about the SABGA Awards. Just going to tell you a little bit about the SABGA family. The origin of the SABGA family still is alive. He's 96 or 97 now and comes every year, including this year, very frail, has to be helped onto the stage, but is part and parcel of this whole series of laureate awards which have been ongoing for 10 years. Her Excellency has attended, Dr. Auger has attended, and several persons, other persons from St. Lucia, have been there on occasion over the 10 years. I have been there for the entire 10 years. Dr. SABGA, also an honorary graduate of the University of the West Indies, formed his company, Answer McCall, which is a conglomerate of the SABGA family and a company in Trinidad called, once upon a time, McInerney Alston, was birthed actually in 1986. McInerney Alston was birthed in 1881 and Answer in early 1940s. So you have this massive conglomerate coming out of Trinidad with businesses throughout the Caribbean region, inclusive of Guyana on the South American continent, diversified into every single imaginable field. From cars, they trade, they're in insurance, in real estate, in banking, in finance. I think the tallest building in Trinidad, probably the Tatil building, is their building. It stands out. It is probably the largest Caribbean conglomerate company that we have. Dr. SABGA, 10 years ago, felt, and all what I'm going to say, I will be brief because it is on the back of this. Dr. SABGA felt that there is so much in our region that is not being recognized. The world recognizes the Nobel laureates, and he felt that we should have Caribbean laureates. And there are people in this region doing things that none of us know about, that I didn't know about, and who we have to search for every year. We are now going instead of every year, we are now going to every other year. So the decade is finished, and the next decade will probably be 20 years. It will be a 20-year span because we're no longer going to do it every year. Dr. SABGA, in his wisdom, decided that he was going to give $1 million every year to 3 laureates, one in science and technology, civil society, and arts and letters. Our Dr. Auger won in arts and letters. In the region, we have volcanologists, we have pathologists, we have agriculturalists doing the research and some of the things that we don't even know about, and it's all in this book. They come from Trinidad. The regions are Trinidad, and there's a committee headed by someone. There's a committee in Barbados, a committee in Trinidad, a committee in Jamaica, and they all have chairs, and I am the chair of, I have the largest, because I am chair of the OECS committee, and we receive nominations from Anguilla, St. Kitts, Montserrat, right down to Grenada. So the OECS region is the largest region, but incidentally, I am almost sure, single-handedly produced the most laureates. We have from St. Lucia, we have from St. Kitts, Carol Phillips, we have from Dominica, Lennox Honeychurch, we have from St. Vincent, Leonard O'Garo, and this year, for the first time, they instituted entrepreneurship, and the Entrepreneurship Award was won by Herbert A. Samuel. Dr. Sabga started by giving $1 million, and when the economic times hit about 4 or 5 years ago, it was reduced to $500,000. And it is assumed and hoped that that money given to the people, the projects that they are working on, will benefit from the monies that he puts into their hands. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Anthony N. Sabga Caribbean Awards for Excellence, it's called ANSCAF, were first awarded in 2006, and the unique scheme was inspired by Wilfred Nimrod and the late Michael Mansour, working out the all-important details. It was the brainchild of Dr. Norman Sabga, but the details were worked out by them. It's made up of an eminent persons panel. After we, the 5 chairs of the 5 regions in the Caribbean region, put forward our nominees, we then go to Trinidad to present our nominees. And we have to do it by speaking, by, what's it again? PowerPoint. We could do it in various ways. Sorry, thank you. And then the eminent persons panel make the decision and decide, yes, this is the award for this year, for that year, for the 3. And for the first time this year, we gave 4 awards. And so in the 10 years that have passed since ANCAF's inception, we have had 7 ceremonies hosted in Port-of-Spain, Trinidad, and 23 exceptional men and women have been awarded. This book celebrates a decade of ANSCAF and the achievements of the men and women who work diligently, not only in our region to advance our societies across the borders, but it also speaks highly of the persons who have made the Anthony N. Sabga's dream come true to make, hopefully, the Caribbean a better place for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Well said. And I'm really, really happy that we have so many libraries represented. I think that generally it's not well known how many libraries actually exist in St. Lucia. And in fact, I didn't know that there were so many libraries until was it a couple of years ago that the Library Association was launched. And in fact, our site librarian is the vice president of the association. And that was when I discovered that we had so many libraries in St. Lucia, because we never used to hear much about community libraries and all the various libraries in different departments and so on. So this is really very good, and I think it gives the Library Association some much needed exposure as well. And we're looking forward to a lot more public ventures and public activities that gravitate towards libraries, that allow people to gravitate towards libraries, because libraries continue to be of vital importance and significance, despite the fact that many people think that the technology has booted libraries out. Libraries are really, really critical to the development of any society, and they remain critical and pivotal to such development. So at this stage, we are right on time, as your program says. At 11 a.m., we will have closing remarks from Dr. Auger, and it is now 11. Dr. Auger.
Thank you, Dr. Simon. Okay, cool. Always a pleasure. Thanks for being here. Chancellor Emeritus, Nigel Harris, Dr. Simon, Dr. Gardner, ladies and gentlemen of the library community. Dr. Simon sort of stole my opening remarks. I was going to say how refreshing it is to learn that we have so many libraries, so many repositories of information. And I'm left to echo her thoughts that you now need to see that your outreach in this particular example is effective, and people know what a wonderful publication is now on your shelves. I should also, in my early comments, thank UWI, although this is not a vote of thanks, at least not according to the program, but I must thank UWI for the seamless, elegant way that they always assist and help with these things that are so important, often unnoticed, but very important little milestones in the development of our country. very briefly, I just want to point out that there aren't many institutions that celebrate what I would call enlightenment, excellence, and enterprise in such a dedicated and committed way, first annually and then biannually, which is understandable given the economic circumstances. But the commitment of the Ansel McCall Foundation has not waned, and the awards scheme continues to grow from strength to strength, bringing to light deserving individuals across the Caribbean, and really inculcating in ourselves regionally a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride, a sense of reinforcement that our work is worthy of recognition. It was not until I was nominated and asked to put together a sort of a summary of achievements that I started to list, because I was asked how my work might have influenced the society in which I live, and particularly the impact on young people or younger people. And I had not thought about this in tangible terms. I just did what I liked, and I strove to do it well. And this has had an impact. And one of the reasons, I think, why they've limited the age, by the way, is that the Ansel McCall Foundation places emphasis on what the continued impact of the grant would be, so that they look for persons who are still active and persons who are likely to influence others. So there's a continuity, there's a legacy that happens. Certainly in my case, I attribute my ability to continue producing and directing and working with young people in workshops and in the literary festival, which we did until last year, 2 years ago, directly to the resources made available by Ansel McCall. Because of that, we were also able to start the Pat Charles Endowment for the Arts, which is soon to make its first award for a performing arts project. It will be done along the lines of seed money for productions mostly, but it also has a mandate to support training. The piece that I wrote for the book is very much an expression of where I'm at in my own life, and also an expression of where I think the Caribbean is at. So it's full of images of life and death and children and family and art and culture and comedy and enterprise, all of the things that make up this wonderful Caribbean of ours, which continues, I think, to be underestimated in so many ways, particularly by our leaders who do not always have an appreciation of the wellspring of wonderment and sheer energy that lies just beneath the surface and which needs to be unleashed, and which I continue to believe would propel this Caribbean to already one of the most amazing places, but also one of the most advanced communities of nations in the world. I think, and it's particularly poignant now that we're talking about constitutional reform in not so enlightened ways sometimes, but the fact that this continues to be a growing, developing society and should always be aware of its own evolution. I think we lose sight of this too often, and many of our young people have been conditioned now to believe that this is how it has been and this is how it always will be. And their own role in change, evolution, in improvement of the society is diminishing, and this is a great sadness to me. And I think something that all of us need to work on. So you who are in the profession of information and education, I want to appeal to you to nurture, to outreach, to find the light and turn it on in the minds of all of those young people out there who are the future citizens, as we all know, but who are not necessarily as engaged as we would like them to be in the future development of our country. I think that's it. I just would like once again to thank you all for being here, ask you to please put the books not on your highest shelf, but on your lowest shelf, where they can be found and where they can be read and where they can be enjoyed. So once again, thank you very much to Yui, and thank you to all of you for your presence here. Good night.